And I'm representing Brahma Kumaris Environmental Initiative. And it's my honor to be your moderator here today. And as far as I am aware, this is the only faith-based side event in this COP15. And I know we have a representative from UNCCD here. So I'm just saying that in COP16, I hope there will be two. And the faith-based organizations, they have an outreach of 80 to 90% of the world population. So if you want to read the message, the masses, if you want to make the world population aware of the current issues with land restoration, then we are your important people. And the faith-based organizations also have a legacy of leaving no one behind, of caring for everyone, and listen to those who nobody else listens to. So we are recording this session, so I hope that when we put it on the YouTube, more will listen to us than today. To bring about any sustainable change in any social or environment system, we need to start from the inside, from the values, from personal transformation. And that will lead to stability, resilience, and compassion. So in this side event, we will highlight how faith has inspired various actors to take action on land restoration. We will hear how ethics and values that faith communities hold can help in sustaining land restoration. We will hear the active involvement of the youth and champions for land rights. And we have a group of very experienced and committed speakers. So here to the right is Aneta Loy from Poland, from Brahma Kumaris. And to my left here is Dr. Elvis Paul Tangem. And I will give proper introduction to them later. So after those two have spoken, we take a short break for questions. And then next set of speakers, which is Alan Otaro from Sunesa, which is our partners in this event. Sunesa is the Catholic Youth Network for African Sustainability Education. And then we have Professor Nidiritu from South Africa. And finally, we will also be guided into meditation by the BK Pratibha Patel from Kenya, and our youth representative here who is busy filming, which is Ernesto. So that's the program for today. And I hope, even though we're not so many, maybe you would like to take a moment to reflect on what would you like to know from this session. So when you leave here in 1.5 hours, 2 hours, what is it you would like to go home with? Do you want to have an inspiration? Would you like to have some more insight? Or a new commitment to a personal transformation? Or how would you like to leave this room when we are finished? So I will now introduce Aneta, and she will go first in our program. So Aneta Loy, she's from Poland. Brahma Kumaris focal point to UNCCD. And Aneta has been associated with Brahma Kumaris in 2006 and is today director of Brahma Kumaris in Poland. Her genuine interest in spiritual truth and benevolence led to her involvement in projects through sustainable development and capacity building. And since 2011, she's been providing Her speciality is at India One Solar Power Thermal Power Plant. This is Brahma Kumaris' flagship project in India. And Aneta lived 10 years in India working there. And I say welcome to Aneta.
Good afternoon. Greetings of peace. I'm very happy to be with all of you here. And yes, we are not a big group, but very powerful. So welcome to all of you. And I would like to start my part from a reflection, just for a few seconds, because we are going to speak about inside-out approach. So just for a few seconds, please imagine the world you would like to live in, the future beautiful world. Just imagine the lush greenery, fertile soil, beautiful vegetation, and happy people. So this is where we want to go. And today, I would like to share our approach, what we believe could be done to get there. And usually, we speak about things that we can see outside with our eyes. And we can imagine that this world or our life is like a tree. So what we see is the whole tree, but sometimes we forget about the seed. And this is the seed that determines the quality of the world and the life. So today we'll have a look at the seed. I have a few questions also to start with. The first question is, have you ever thought about impact that your thoughts and your feelings have on the earth, on the land, on the soil? And the second question, if they have, then it may be that my thoughts, my feelings are the root causes of the current state of the world. And if so, it means that also solutions are inside me. And this is very good news. So let's follow it. So what do you think it really matters? Why are you here today? Anyone? You are here because you had a thought to come here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So you see the power of thought? Anything, everything, what we see, what we experience is a result of our thoughts. So important are our thoughts. So even scarcity or prosperity, up to us, up to my thoughts, up to our collective consciousness. So how does it work? We are here to discuss land issues, the current state of land, which is degraded, which is desertified. So we look at the land, which is represented as a tree. But this is actually the output. This is the final stage that we can see and experience right now. But from where has the tree grown? So there is a process, right? The full process is there. And if we go to the beginning, we'll come to the seed. And it's the seed that determines the quality of the fruits on the tree. So we can take care of the tree. We can mulch it, we can water it, we can protect it, we can trim it. But still, if the seed is not right, it will not bear the fruits that we would like to have. And the same applies to our life. The same process applies there. You know, sometimes, not sometimes, we all want to change the world, isn't it? Okay, sorry. We all want to change the world, right? We don't maybe really like the world we live in. And we start from the word. right? We look at the world and we think what we can change. But actually, this is not the right direction. The right direction would be to look at the awareness from which my thoughts grown. Because my awareness determines my thoughts determines my attitude, how I see the life, how I see the world. Then my attitude determines my vision, my speaking, my actions, my relations, and my life, my world, is only at the end of this whole process. So really, truly, if we care and if we want to bring a sustainable change, we have to understand this process. And it applies for anything in this world. So what is my awareness, which is like a soil in which the thoughts grow? I really need to think about it and check, and then maybe change. So how to do it? Today, I would like to propose one type of awareness, which is awareness based on values. There are many different types, but we can also sometimes simplify things so they can become effective. So let's say that awareness is created out of my values. And values are like a compass that guide me in my life. And values can change the direction of my life. So how can we cultivate this awareness? What is this awareness? Very simple. The awareness is, who am I? And, okay, this we don't have time for that, so that's fine. Who am I? This is the most important question we all ask others, philosophers, leaders, and ourselves. And the question may be quite simple and useful in this way. I am peace. This is our offer to you today. This is what we believe, what we practice, and we encourage you to experiment. It's all about experimentation. So let's say, I am peace. I am love. I am powerful. I am content. I am dignified. And now imagine, if we would have this kind of thoughts throughout the whole day, how our life would look like. If I am peaceful inside, then whatever I say, whatever I do, whatever kind of relations I have with others are also peaceful. Then the world is peaceful. So please think about it. So, role of awareness. Why are we speaking about awareness? Awareness is really the foundation, as I said, the soil for anything that grows in my life. So, awareness is important if I want to change. If I want to change my attitude and my actions, my behavior, this is what I then have to look at. Then, if I want to become powerful, it's also awareness. If I want to become creative, also it's awareness. And even if I want to have good crops, fertile soil, it's also the matter of awareness. And my colleague will speak more about it later. So there is a very beautiful educational program, and we have more information if you are interested, because we need to understand and we need to experience it. So there is very nice value educational program where there are many examples, many materials available to practice all these different values mentioned here in a very nice experimental way. And it's been done throughout the whole world. Then another example that I would like to mention is about inner resilience. You know, some time ago, there was one farmer in India, there was a drought, and he suffered a lot because he lost everything. And then he remembered about his legacy. He remembered what his ancestors used to do. So he collected his family, they sat down and they meditated. Meditated, it means they experienced values and they shared them with the soil, with the seeds, and then with the plants as they grew. And it had double benefit. One was for him, that he became strong inside, he became confident, and he got new ideas what to do. And then even the crops were much better. But again, my colleague will speak about it more later on. And then another point of good awareness is creativity, innovation. This is the project where I have privilege to contribute. And it's a very unique project. It's a solar power plant, I think the only one in the whole world that can generate electricity from the sun for 24 hours a day. And this is very special. You know that it's not possible, basically, to generate something from the source which is not there. And after sunset, sun is not there. But we developed the way to do it. And we are a spiritual organization. So that was possible only because of using all these values practically in our work. Again, if you are interested, we have much more information. But then, finally, I would like to speak about something what we all do, and we can all change. You know, we are here because we care for the land. I have 0 minutes, so that's good. 0 minutes, but just I want to turn your attention to something what has the biggest impact on land degradation, and this is livestock. And there is a lot of information, but the main message is that livestock agriculture is the biggest cause of soil degradation, and it also takes a lot of area, but produces relatively much less protein and calories. So there are a lot of studies that show that actually if we exchanged meat and dairy diet into plant-based diet, we could reduce the area that we need for crop by 75%. Can you imagine to free the land which is equal to North America and Brazil, and then restore this land for ecosystems, for biodiversity, for anything what we want, still having our stomachs full and strong bodies. So with this, I think I would like to finish. There are many more benefits of plant-based diet, but one question, again, to you. On which value is my diet based? How do I choose what I put on my plate? Am I aware of all the consequences for environment and also for well-being of that, what I'm eating? Just one thing, if you can change, you know, you cannot develop solar system or do farming maybe, but you can decide what you want to eat. So with this, I would like to finish, and thank you very much, and sorry for taking 2 more minutes maybe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aneta. And that was a very detailed description on how much our thoughts actually matters, and how thoughts leads to values, and how that can then translate into action. So thank you, Aneta. And you will have opportunities to ask questions after the second presenter. So I'll now invite Dr. Elvis Paul Tangem to come to this side. Yeah, then you will be in our filming. Thank you. Yes, you have 10 minutes. Yes. Dr. Elvis Paul Tangem must be a very passionate person about his project. We have heard about the Great Green Wall Initiative. And Dr. Tangem is the coordinator for this initiative at the African Union Commission and Cameroon. Before joining the African Union Commission, Dr. Tangam worked as a regional enterprise development manager for 3Aid International, a UK-based charity. And he's also worked for other organizations in the UK and Cameroon and other places. And Dr. Elvis Paul Tangam holds a BSc from the University of Dashang in Cameroon, and an SSc in Ecology and Management of University of Edinburgh, plus an executive MBA from Paris, and a PhD in Business Administration. And several certificates and diplomas. And we are very honored to have you with us today. So we will hear about this very special project. Thank you and welcome. This is also an example how your passion and interest and knowledge translates to action. So let's see if we get them connected. You like to sit? Then you put this on here. Yeah. So most welcome.
Yes, so thank you very much. Actually, I did not prepare a specific slide, a specific presentation for this, but I have several presentations on the Great Green Wall, and I think it's, you know, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So I think it's better if we can see some images of what we are talking about, and so that we can retain. If we cannot retain all the data, we can retain the images. And I think that is why I am looking for the most appropriate. This is not that good. Let me see. Okay, I think this is good, but it's talking more about the size of the wall. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for the invitation. I know it's because of my younger brother here, Alan, that I got to know this wonderful group. And your presentation, you know, I will need to know, maybe join the group, because there is a serious need for spirituality, and there's a lot of dehumanization now. And I think it's very linked to the degradation of our environment. Because when the environment is degraded and everything is cement, steel, it becomes very, very difficult for, you know, so the Great Green Wall is a Pan-African program. It's a program that was created by the heads of state. It's one of the rare programs that the heads of state created themselves. They sat together and thought that we needed to do something on a Pan-African scale, and so they created the Great Green Wall. And the Great Green Wall came about because of the numerous extreme environmental challenges that was facing the Sahel region, especially at the time, as you know, from the 70s right to the 90s, climate change was big in the Sahel region. That is the land below the Sahara Desert. And it was really big, so much so that you had extreme drought, extreme flood, which consequently led to complete destruction of lives and livelihood. And so the heads of state thought that it would be more sensible to have a broad program rather than allowing every country to try to, you know, to combat desertification on a small scale. So they created the whole idea of a Great Green Wall to, as they said, to stop the advancement of the desert, which is in itself not a simple challenge. And so it became what we call a Pan-African initiative. I'm really trying hard to get. Where is the committee? How many minutes is gone already?
3.
Oh, so we have lots of time. So the Great Green Wall was created out of the need to look for long-term solutions to the challenges of extreme weather conditions in the drylands of Africa. By then, the word climate change was not really in the mold in the 70s. So they said the advancement of the desert, but actually it was the exacerbation of this natural climatic phenomenon by the coming of climate change that was being manifested by the advancement of the Sahara Desert. You know, but by then, in the 70s, climate change was not really something that people talk about. So, and it was manifested through several ways. As I said, extreme flood, extreme dryness, which led to complete destruction of the rangelands, the farmlands, disappearance of water bodies, and disappearance of, in fact, income generation and livelihood activities. And this started leading to these big clashes in the access of use and of natural resources. And today, we have seen what is happening in the Lake Chad region. Lake Chad region is a best case scenario of what climate change did to Africa, because a lake that was 25,000 square kilometers has been reduced to 7% of its initial body in less than 50 years. And if you imagine that there are about 40 million people who live directly or indirectly on the lake, you can imagine what happened. And this is the highest part of Africa that has both the highest number, the demography is extremely high, both for man and animal. So a bulk of the heads of cattle, sheep, goats, camels come from the Sahel. An average family size, like in a country like Niger, is 7 children. So you can imagine that reduction in the natural ecosystem, bothering families, both at animals and man. And the main activities, livelihood and economic activities, is farming and pastoralism. And both of these key activities are based on the caprices of nature, are based on the availability of rain and the timing of the rain. Because the timing of the rains is very, very important on how, when we plant, when our animals go on transhumance, you know the transhumance, the movement of animals from north to south in search of green pastures. So when this became so difficult, what happened? There was a complete disruption of the harmony in the villages. And that's why today you hear about the conflict between the farmers, the graziers, the fishermen, the hunters, and the problem between the animals and the people. This never used to be there. There was full harmony. But because of land degradation and desertification exacerbated by climate change, all of this have changed. And so within the framework of the Great Green Wall, we are putting on so many activities. We are approaching it from what we call sustainable land and sustainable land management and restoration. So we are involved in climate-smart agriculture, climate-smart pastoralism, enterprise development, renewable energy, smart agriculture, water management, policy, firefighting, and everything that will build the resilience of the local population and the biodiversity to the incidence of extreme weather conditions. So it is a bit of everything. Today we started in the Sahel and Sahara region with about 16 countries. Today we are talking about 35 countries are involved, making almost 500 million people. So it is a huge program with huge challenges, but we are working with all our partners, including, of course, the UNCCD, who is our key partner, and then the European Union, the World Bank, and all the partners that want to see development in the world. And so the Great Green Wall has become like a brand for sustainable management and restoration of dry lands. And we are now sharing our experiences. We currently have projects in Haiti and in Fiji. And the people of the Middle East have now adopted the Great Green Wall framework to do an extension in the Middle East with Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the other countries. So it has become a big, big, big program. So I hope we will have another minute to talk about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And please stay there. And it was very inspiring to hear your enthusiasm for this fantastic initiative. And if any one of you have any questions, please indicate for Aneta and Dr. Tangam. Anything you'd like to ask? I actually have a question myself, because this program is about faith, values, and legacy. And I wonder, Dr. Tangam, which values are driving you in your work? What would you say?
The values that are driving, I think the main values that make you to wake up and look forward to the work, it's all about being human and doing your own share to maintain this harmony between the ecosystem and the human society that is completely lost. As you know, we come from the forest region of Cameroon, and as a forest people, our relationship with nature is not based on economics. It's based on humanity, on the wholeness of the ecosystem. Like for us, if we go for hunting, we cannot kill the female nor the young animals because we know that it has to regenerate. We cannot cut down young trees. We cannot cut down the very old trees that produce the fruit. So there is a coexistence in my area with nature. So I'm very passionate about it because unlike the classical forestry or ecosystem, which is based on how much we get from nature, for us, we look at nature as part of a whole. Yeah.
So it's being human, yeah. Coexistence, yes, respect for
nature.
And maybe, Aneta, what is your main value?
Yes, humility.
Humility. Humility also means to listen to the earth and to listen to each other. So I say thank you to you two. You will have a chance to give a final comment at the end. And then I invite the next two speakers. And the first one is Professor Nidiritu. You can sit there, Ellen, if you like, or you can sit here. You decide. Yeah, yeah. That's good. So, let me get my introduction. So we heard about the seed of consciousness and how that can translate into various initiatives. And Professor Professor Diritu, he will pick up on the seed of consciousness. He's a water resource management specialist working in the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering in the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. So he's a professional engineer, a fellow of the Water Institute of South Africa, and is rated as a scientist by the National Research Foundation in South Africa. He's an intense meditator since '92, and he also coordinates the Brahma Kumaris Center in Soweto in South Africa, and is part of our environment initiative. So welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so hope I'll be able to say what I need to say in 10 minutes. So you're talking about technologies of consciousness, and what are they? And how did I gain interest in this? So about 10 years ago, I was supervising a PhD, and he was working on how we can improve crop yield, maize in particular, using contour ridges. So this sort of thing. I was working somewhere in Zimbabwe, but at the same time, in our university, the Brahma Kumaris, there's this thing that had started maybe 2 years before that, called Yogic Farming, where we say farmers do organic farming, it's much more sustainable than chemical farming, but in addition to that, also meditate on your crops, meditate on the land, and what they had found is that this works much better than if you simply do organic farming. So they had taken this up. So I thought, being in a research space, I could actually find out whether this happens or not. And also we know that drought happens a lot in many countries, South Africa included. So there was a drought in 2015 in South Africa, and of course the government was doing many things about the drought. But one of the things that was on the website of the Department of Water and Sanitation in South Africa was this particular message. It was all over the site on this page, and encouraging people to pray for rain, to meditate for rain, because there is no substitute for water. So the question we might ask, does this make a difference or not? Do you think it does? It makes a difference. It makes a difference. What proof do you have? How do you show that? So that's the idea of thinking about the impact of your mind on the elements of matter can be considered of as a technology, and that is if you show it actually works, you show how it works, you show to what extent it works. So that is what this presentation is about. And of course, we know that there are many people in orthodox science who think this is not possible. That your mind doesn't come in, your mind can't impact on the elements of matter, and which means, this is a bit contentious, for mainstream science. But I set out to find this out, and I carried out a number of experiments. So I'm just reporting on one of them here, but there are a few others that I carried out. So this is what I set up. I used carrots in this particular experiment. So I had 100 buckets set up on the roof of a civil engineering building on a 10 by 10 grid, and the neighboring buckets were treated differently, which means if this is a control, if one bucket is a control bucket, the next one would be meditated on, and the next one would not be meditated on. So everything apart from the fact that meditation is happening was similar. So for this set of carrots, and this was an experiment with some final year students in 2016. Those are the photos of the carrots and what was happening. So I was meditating from the meditation center, which is 15 kilometers away from the building. I was doing this in the morning, so it is remote. It is remotely done. I was not standing on top of the carrots or close to the carrots, far away. And I was doing this for 30 minutes every day until we harvested the carrots. So again, this is what was happening. The colors indicate the ones that were meditated on, and the others were the control. So what results did we obtain after harvesting and looking at the yield? So the average weight of the carrots meditated on was 11% higher. statistically significant. You can see the p-value there. And even the stems and the vegetation, whatever is on top, not above the ground, was also around 10% for the ones that were meditated on. And even the larger differences were in terms of the nutrition content. And this was quite clear to all the people who were looking at the carrots that had been harvested. It was very clear that these ones are much more brighter, have much more vigor, these ones are a bit pale. And the results that we found out from the lab also indicated that, and that is what this graph is showing. So the increase on the left-hand side here, on the vertical axis, and you can see all these large bars on top. So that is one experiment that shows that your thoughts impact on the elements of matter, and that impact is significant actually. That was one experiment, and the yogic farming experiments that were being conducted in India also showed results that indicate that when you meditate, you can obtain significant increases in yield, and of course, so this was a comparison in organic farming where the crops or the wheat in one field of wheat was only having organic manure. The other one had organic manure or organic farming with meditation, and the impact of meditation is what is presented here. And comparing the meditated organic farming crops with chemical farming, the typical expensive, polluting chemical farming, they were actually comparable, although chemical farming was a bit better. Okay, so then another aspect I want to touch on, I don't know how many minutes I have. 3 minutes, okay. So there's another aspect that relates to 4 minutes, okay. So now if I'm asking this question, so do you think your thoughts affect the actions of others? So does what I think here impact on what someone is likely to do 100 kilometers away or 50 kilometers away or not? So there was this particular experiment that was done by TM meditators, so transcendental meditation, meditators in New York. They had done many of these, there's just one of them. And it was quite detailed with independent researchers, quite a detailed analysis, 50 pages of a research article. And what they did is to get down to this location in New York, that in Washington, in New York, Columbia, that maybe has a high crime rate. And so 600 to 4,000 meditators set up on this place for 8 weeks. So sometimes in June and July 1993, and they worked with the police, they worked with all people who record the crime rates and all of that, so in the study. And what did they find out was the impact of having the meditators meditating in this place. So this was a typical result. I've just simplified this from what is in the article, but this shows that, as the number of meditators increased over a period of 8 weeks, the crime rate reduced. And the reduction is significant. Okay. And something else. So I'm just close to the end. We are talking about sustainability, and it is us, individuals, entrepreneurs, everyone else, who makes the decisions that are connected with how sustainable the decisions we make are. So the question here that this particular article was trying to find out is whether meditation could lead to more sustainable decision making. So they set up an experiment where they experimented with entrepreneurs. One was a control, and one group was taught this particular meditation called Loving Kindness Meditation, LKM. And then they were asked to make some decisions regarding what decision they would make if a certain supplier of their business is polluting, and therefore they are not happy with it, and therefore he needs to close his business, or they need to stop working with them because they are polluting the environment, and according to them that may not be a good value. So now the issue was, did meditation make a difference in terms of the decisions they made? And the results in this particular experiment, though actually other experiments is what I've shown here, also presenting it in a simplified manner. And it was found that actually meditating made a difference in this group, and it was also statistically significant. Therefore, if the thing of values and using values and learning about values makes an impact on how we, on the decisions we make, on how sustainable everything is, and these aspects, according to the information that's here, the difference is that this creates is very significant. And this sort of thing doesn't have a carbon footprint. There's no carbon footprint, so it is free. And in addition to that, it makes me happier, it makes others happier. There are so many other benefits that this creates, but yet the question I would ask is, how come we are not thinking about this sort of thing? How come we are not incorporating this into our mainstream discussions and studies? Although maybe that's why we are here, to create that awareness. And maybe that's how, actually that's the end of my presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. Another example on how our thoughts matters in terms of agriculture. We will have questions, but first we have Alan. Alan will present next. Alan Otaro is from Sunesa, and I give now the correct wording, is the Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability in Africa. And Sunesa and Brahma Kumaris have now been partners in environment conferences and projects for many, many years. Alan is the founder of Sunesa, and is based in Nairobi in Kenya. With Sunesa have chapters in 10 African countries. Alan is a member of the Global Membership Council of the Laudato Si movement and serves on the Ecology Commission of the World Christian Life Community. And since 2015, he's been a member of the Climate Change Working Group under the Justice, Peace and Development Department in the Symposium Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar. So now we'll hear another example of faith, and I think we'll hear about our popes and your experiences. So welcome, Alan.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And also deep gratitude to my fellow distinguished panelists, and of course to our dear partners, the Brahma Kumaris Environment Initiative, for working with us to put together this side event. So I wish to invite all of us to continue this conversation, basically by sharing my perspectives and reflections on the initiatives of the Catholic Church in nurturing values, but more concretely, providing a faith-inspired approach to caring for land and life. And since one of the key words in our side event title is legacy, I would like to take you on a trip down memory lane to 1980. How many of you are around in 1980? By show of hands. Okay, cool. I wasn't, so it's good that there's some people who are around, and therefore, if I say anything that does not sit with what was those who are around, can testify to, then you can point that out. But basically, in May 1980, and incidentally, we are now in the month of May, Pope John Paul II visited a number of African countries, and this was his first apostolic trip to Africa. Remember, Pope John Paul II was elected in 1978. In the Catholic Church, we call 1978 the year of the three popes, because it's the year that Pope Paul VI died, and John Paul I was elected. He was only Pope for 33 days, because he also died after 33 days, and Pope John Paul II was elected, all in 1978, so the year of the three popes. So in 1980, he visits Kenya, he visits what was then called Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, He visits Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Cote d'Ivoire. So it is very timely that we gather for this side event in Abidjan on the 42nd anniversary of the conclusion of this very first visit of John Paul II to Africa, because he finished his tour in Abidjan. And one of the most significant outcomes related to our conversation here today was his visit to Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. And as Dr. Tangem has explained, in the 70s and 80s, we saw the ravages of drought desertification in the Sahel region. And this was what informed his decision to go to Burkina Faso. And he was able to put focus, to put the spotlight of the world on the challenges, but also the sufferings of the people in the Sahel region during this time. Also chastising the global north to do more to support and to help the people who are going through the tragedy as a result of drought desertification. And he called for greater solidarity, but also a renewed urgency to address the root causes of the issues. So he was not simply calling for charity, he was asking that those who bear the greatest responsibility address the root causes of the issues that we are facing, some of which Dr. Tangem has ably explained. He went on to say the following, that when the poor and needy cannot find water, I, the Lord, will hear them. I will change the dry and barren land into a lake. So he was quoting Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 41. And then he went on to say, and the water that I give will become for them a flowing fountain that gives eternal life. From this very place, I launch a solemn appeal to the entire world. I raise my voice in supplication. I make my voice the voice of those who have no voice, the voice of the innocent. And so therefore, friends, the Pope's appeal at the time was anchored and deeply rooted in the principles of Catholic social teaching. Sonia has just been asking what values drive our work. And in this case, the values that Pope John Paul II was relying on to make this appeal were derived or enshrined in the principles of Catholic social teaching, which include principles such as the common good, solidarity, preferential option for the poor, human dignity, and subsidiarity. And so therefore, since this appeal, several initiatives have taken root to respond more directly and more concretely to this appeal. Now, because of the briefness of time in this side event, I'll just mention two, one of which I've read about and one which I am intimately involved with. So let's begin with the one I've read about. The John Paul II Foundation for the Sahel is a foundation that was established in 1984. Its headquarters and secretariat are, of course, in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. And this foundation was set up with the support of the Italian bishops and the church in general, but also the local community in Burkina Faso, with the objective of giving testimony to the Pope's closeness to the people during his visit, especially those living in the poorest areas of the planet, by promoting projects to fight desertification in areas such as the environment, agricultural development, but also water and renewable energy. We've seen some examples that Aneta has highlighted in terms of what they're doing in India on renewable energy, but also training and in recent times also becoming an instrument for fostering interreligious dialogue. We've heard from Dr. Tangem about some of the conflicts that have at the root of the crisis the environmental issues, climate change and so on, but which often trigger other factors such as ethnic but also religious triggers for conflict. Now, this foundation is currently represented in about 9 countries of the Sahel area: Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Senegal, and Chad. So I think you can see some of the overlaps that also go hand in hand with the initiatives that, for example, Dr. Tangem has pointed out of the African heads of state. Now, the second initiative that I wish to highlight, the one I say that I'm deeply involved in, of course, is the Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability in Africa, or SINESA. It's a very long name, it's a bit of a mouthful, but each of the words in our title reflects who we are, our identity, and what we do. So basically reflects our values. But we also draw inspiration from John Paul II, again, from the message that he wrote for the World Day of Peace in 1990, in which he called for the need to upscale ecological awareness and to find fitting expression for this awareness to develop into concrete programs and initiatives. So it's not enough to be aware, it's important to go forward, to go one step further and act on this awareness. And this fits perfectly into the methodology of Catholic social teaching, which is see, judge, and act. So after being aware of a situation, you then go next step to evaluate and to understand what that awareness means for you, means for others, but also for the people that you live with, including all of creation. And then taking a step to address and to act on this awareness. And then coming back again. So it's a looped cycle that helps us to really understand and act in a way that is ethical and value-driven. And so from this message, we were inspired. A few of us, young people in Africa, were inspired to say, why can't we bring together young Catholics from across the continent, create a platform that is able then to do formation, which is environmental education and awareness, but also do networking advocacy training, and which is the reason why we collaborate, for example, with Brahma Kumaris in some of the multilateral environmental processes that exist, whether it's UNEP, the UNCCD, or the Climate Convention, to bring the greater awareness about values and the moral imperative of acting on the ecological crisis that we face. The planetary crisis, which is underpinned by a crisis of ethics and morality as well. And so I want to conclude by just highlighting one very concrete initiative of the Catholic Church that is actually being launched this year. Remember that this year is the 7th anniversary of this document that Pope Francis wrote in 2015. So now we are moving from the legacy of John Paul II to Pope Francis. And this document is called Laudato Si, on care for our common home. So it's a call to everyone living on this planet to join together to respond to the ecological crisis. And since 2015, lots of workshops, seminars, academic exposures have been done to reflect on this document. But now the Church is calling everyone to go a step further and to act. And therefore, the launch of the Laudato Si Action Platform, which calls everyone to collaborate, both the Universal Church but with other actors, to collaborate together to put into action all the various reflections and experiences that have come as a result of the 7 years of reflecting on this document. And it has 7 goals, including responding to the cry of the earth, responding to the cry of the poor, but also adjusting our lifestyles to live more simply. We've heard about, for example, the issues around meat production, but also ecological economics. How is our economic system structured, and how does it either lend to or subtract from our ability to really go to the core and the root causes of what we are addressing now in terms of the certification, drought, the climate crisis, and the biodiversity crisis. If you go online and just type Laudato Si Action Platform, you can find all the 7 goals and how to be part of this formidable movement that the Catholic Church is putting in motion, inviting everyone to come up with 7-year action plans and then review these action plans at the end of this cycle, calling on these core principles of Catholic social teaching: solidarity, human dignity, subsidiarity, the common good, and so on, preferential option for the poor. So thank you very much. That's been my time.
Thank you very much, so much. You can stay there for a while, and thank you very much for your presentation. I actually do remember the change that happened in 2015 when Laudato Si came out. Personally, I've been involved in climate change conferences in 2009, but after our Pope's Laudato Si, right up, the whole atmosphere for the faith-based organizations changed. Suddenly, we were respected and valued contributors to these conferences. And yes, are there any questions to Diritu or Alan? I think you had a question, was it, for Diritu? Yes.
Yes, I think his presentation was really revealing, but I want to ask, what is meditation? How do you meditate, to those plants, or let's say to a person, or to those criminals, to make them change? Is it prayers, thinking about them, or what?
This is a very good question, and actually we will have a meditation after this session. So Pratibha here will guide us through a meditation, but I'll let Diritu answer.
Yes, we usually say that everyone meditates, because to meditate means to think, but the question is, what are you thinking about, and how focused are your thoughts? So if you're thinking about the qualities that Sister Anita talked about, so I'm peace, I'm power, I'm love, and you have that awareness that you're actually that seed of all those qualities, and that doesn't depend on anything on the outside, then by being in that awareness, you're able to radiate that energy outwards. So the soul is like who you are. That being has lots of power and lots of energy. And that is the energy, when you train yourself adequately, you can actually direct that energy as a lesser being. That's what I was doing in my meditations, wherever I want. But that is after a bit of advanced practice of that. But basically that it is. That's what it is. The energy of you, the conscious being, is what makes all the difference. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Anything else? I was thinking for Alan that you are a person of faith. So, but still, if we look onto the environmental scene, all the tendencies, statistics is going the wrong way. Pollution is actually increasing. And now I've been in climate change for more than 10 years, maybe you too, in your work. But still, pollution is increasing. And land degradation is increasing. All the planetary crisis is becoming worse and worse. So in this context, what drives you to keep going? What is it in your faith that is your driving force?
I think for me, I draw inspiration a lot from the words of Pope Francis in Laudato Si towards the end. I don't remember what chapter it is, but he talks about the fact that we never lose the hope that draws from our own faith as Christians, as people of hope, depending on the faith community that you subscribe to. And in one paragraph he says, "Let us go along as we sing." So it's a possibility to be in a community, to be able to journey with others, that you're able to strengthen each other in this journey, because Pope John Paul II framed it as ecological conversion. And if you think about a process of conversion, it means that it's a lifelong journey. So for me, it's a vocation. While for others, environmentalism might be a career, I think for people in the faith-based space, it's a vocation, it's a calling, it's something that you live with throughout your life, and therefore that hope keeps you alive.
Thank you. It's a vocation. So I say thank you to both of you, and now I'll invite Pratibha to come here. And yeah, that's good. Sister Pratibha Patel is from Kenya, is based in Kenya, BK, and is the Assistant Regional Director of Brahma Kumaris in Africa, and a permanent representative to UNEP. She was born in Zambia and has been a student of Brahma Kumaris since 1974, and she travels widely lecturing and presenting on personal development, positive thinking and stress management. She's been presented in the UN Climate Change Conference in Bonn and in Durban, South Africa, 2011. She serves as the regional representative of Brahma Kumaris to the Economic and Social Commission for Africa. And she's part of the delegation to United Nations Environment Assembly, UNEA, since its start in Nairobi, 2014. So welcome, Pratibha, to guide us into a meditation.
Yes, I would greet all of you with greetings of peace. And this hour, we talked about outside towards inside. And in fact, we are seeing the outside. We've also heard our speakers giving us statistics and our today's topic of legacy. But sometimes we say, it was all like Alan said, I was not born. That doesn't mean that we cannot experience or feel. Things which you've not seen, you can still experience it. And so today we're gonna now sit up straight. You could choose to keep your eyes open or closed. And we will have a short meditation. Of course, it's a game with the mind. Rather than the mind playing with us, let us discipline our mind. Create thoughts. So slowly, if you can step within yourself and look for a quiet space within. Let the sound around you fade slowly, and you travel within with your mind and intellect. This quiet space within yourself is so calm and silent. Cool and powerful. I can listen to the silence within me, experience it and feel it. I'll now go upwards. And I, the being, connect to my thought pattern. Let me withdraw from the extrovert and go into the introvert. I create that awareness that I am an energy, a positive energy. I am peaceful. And I'm powerful, pure, and positive. I create that harmony within me between my heart and my mind. The mind creates the thoughts and the heart creates the emotions. I use my thoughts and my emotions with respect. I have harmony. There is no clash between the both within me. There is a lot of respect and love. It purifies my awareness. And whatever I see through these eyes, with this awareness of harmony between the heart and the mind, reflects on the things around me, the people around me, and that harmony spreads in a form of vibrations. Positive vibrations, powerful. That energy helps the things around me to transform. I bring that positive energy to the elements and the land, the sky, the seas, and the water. I have already seen what's happening on planet Earth. Now I create a consciousness, what I would like to see. It's a pure blue sky with a balanced weather pattern, clean seas and rivers, where there is biodiversity, and there is harmony on planet Earth between men and creatures, men and plants. Every living being is so beautifully respecting planet Earth, respecting one another, and that brings abundance. That helps restoration. So one is the outward restoration, and this is the inward restoration. And let us all walk around with that consciousness, that awareness, and create our elevated actions, words, and thought pattern, so that my brothers and sisters on this planet Earth will have a very comfortable life, and our future generation will also have the best. Rather than worrying about that, we give these wishes to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratibha, for guiding us into that beautiful meditation. Thank you. So our last speaker today is Ernest Senanu Dovlo. And Ernest, he's coming here, he's smiling the way I pronounce his name. And as I met Ernest yesterday, and I said, I'm sorry, we have put the youth as the last ones. And we're just doing as everyone else. We invite the youth, but we put them as the last speaker. And he was very positive. He says, don't worry, because I'm the last. I am the impression everyone will go out of the door with. So here is your chance to give your last impression. Do you need help with the camera there? Ellen, maybe you help him. Ernest is a communication and media practitioner with over 5 years of experience. In his media career, he has worked with institutions such as ECOWAS Front, ABC News, MX24 Television, as well as correspondent for Top Africa Radio in Germany. He's a youth and gender champion who has worked with institutions such as Plan International and Peace Jam, among others. Over the years, he's also focusing on health and rural reporting, and he's a member of SUNESA in Ghana. So welcome, Ernest. You will use your slide here? No, okay, good. You can change it then.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am just wondering what else anybody else can say after listening to all that we have heard so far from very important personalities, I should add. I had a conversation with a friend not long ago, and he told me it appears young people have a lot of problems. I thought about it and I said yes. And then he asked me, do you know where the problem began? I said no. So today I want to ask us, do we know where the problems of the young people begin? Anybody wants to share with me? Okay. Parents, okay. I think that the problems begin here, that the fact that there is no universally agreed international definition of who a youth is. And that is where the problem begins. Today we are talking about desertification and droughts, and we are looking at it from the perspective of young people. For statistical purposes, however, the United Nations define youth as those persons between the ages of 15 and 24 years. According to the UN, there are about 1.2 billion young people aged between 15 and 24, and that is accounting for 16% of the global population. And by 2030, the number of youth is projected to grow by 7% to nearly 1.3 billion. The reality on the ground, however, is that we may have a different situation on the ground because depending on where you find yourself, the definition, that is the age bracket, varies. And so this means that we may have more young people than estimated by the UN and other bodies. Now, the youth and desertification, is it important for youth to be involved? Desertification is directly linked to man's survival. And there is a popular saying that when the last tree dies, the last man dies. This stresses the need for young people to safeguard the environment, and I will say that if possible, we should die trying to protect the earth and all therein. You probably are asking why. Agriculture is the next frontier for employment and growth. It is expected to remain the main pool of employment for youth in sub-Saharan Africa. But in Africa, the trade is not only being made unattractive. News headlines such as these also in the mud as mining greed intensifies by Premium Times Nigeria. Resource scarce, opaque mining deals in Malawi by allafrica.com. South Africa's illegal miners risk everything for gold by VOA. The illegal gold mines killing rivers and livelihoods in Ghana by the BBC. And 20 suspected illegal miners found dead near abandoned South Africa gold mine by The Guardian are enough evidence that not only are land and water bodies being destroyed by activities such as illegal mining across Africa, but also young lives are being lost. 60% of Ghana's water bodies, for example, are now polluted by largely illegal mining, and it's called Galamsey, where I come from. Now, this means that more people, particularly young and vulnerable people, are more likely to die as a result of drinking polluted water. The development also has a negative impact on economic growth and food security in the continent, and where about 8 countries, including Botswana, Lesotho, and Somalia, import 90% of their food demand. Is Africa at risk of losing its youth due to desertification? Hope for better economic and social prospects is a major driver for African migrations. Research suggests that in 2017, 53% of surveyed members of extremist groups in Africa were between 17 and 26 years old when they joined, and the offer of employment was the most frequent cited incentive at the time of recruitment. This is certainly a recipe for political instability and global insecurity. How can the youth help in the fight against desertification? Today's youth are more innovative and smart. Hence, instead of older people intimidating us, they should rather encourage us with initiatives such as the UN's Environment Young Champions of the Earth competition. It was a global competition that sought to identify and support entrepreneurs and innovators between the ages of 18 and 30 to create positive environment impacts. Now, young people do not want to be used as objects of PR. No, we don't. We want to be involved in the decision making. For example, the youth had a single representation at the in person of Patricia Kumbo at the Heads of State meeting at this very conference, COP15. Yet we are told that the future is for us. How do we take advantage, or how do we take charge of this future when we are not parts of the planning from today? Social media has proven to be one powerful tool that can be used in this agenda of fighting desertification. And instead of having politicians trend for all the wrong reasons, we could employ social media influencers who are young people to have conversations around desertification and also collect ideas on how young people think the environment can be protected. These are some reflections that I want to share with you. A study by the UN Commission Joint Research Center indicates that almost 36 billion tons of soil is lost every day. And I think that you shared that information also yesterday. Not to talk of mining and sand winning for construction purposes. Now, world leaders and experts, as a matter of urgency, need to look for alternatives to sand as a material for construction, for example. We can consider recycling of plastics and molding them into blocks for construction purposes instead of relying on sand. Again, Africa used to have beliefs and practices that sought to protect the environment. For example, where I come from, certain forests are said to be homes of gods and ancestors. And so we are forbidden from entering that reserve. Now, these moves were geared towards conserving forests with different flora and fauna. But today, we say we are enlightened, and yet we destroy the very core of our existence. Finally, we had experts, reps of international organizations, politicians, as well as stakeholders meet here for discussions on sustaining the environment. Question: what happens when everybody lives here? All actors will be back to their offices. I'm talking about the UN reps, the politicians, the ministers, the MPs. They will all be back to their offices. How does my grandmother in the village, who cannot read and write, nor has access to the internet, hear, for example, about the 10-year Sustainable Forest Management Framework for Africa? And how would she understand it? Conspicuously missing at the conference, this conference is a deliberately formed media coalition on environmental sustainability. Almost all cameras we saw at this conference followed either politician or one big woman or man from one big organization. And we have seen what is happening now. The security apparatus is now more relaxed. We see very less cameras around because all the big people have left. But this is the time that the real conversations about why we have gathered here is taking place. We have a problem at hand, and the solution requires a bottom-up approach. People at the grassroots level need to own the mission to protect the earth, and they can only do this when they have access to information. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. You can stay. You can stay. What would you like to ask your youth representative? I spoke to a father yesterday, a father of a 10-year-old boy, and I asked him, how do you feel thinking about that your child will not have a future which is in any way sustainable? And he stopped for a moment and didn't know what to say. So when you think of the future, Ernest, what do you think 50 years ahead when you're my age?
I'm filled with fear. Because when you listen to all the speakers we have had today, they all point to the fact that we keep destroying the environment. And I think that Aneta mentioned that this environment is us, indirectly or directly, we are connected. And so if we destroy the environment, we are destroying ourselves. So 50 years from now, if the, like I said early on, if the last tree dies, the last man will also die. That's how scary it is.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for reminding us of that. What's the main advice to the adults? One thing, like, not the politicians, but like your parents or us in here, maybe.
I don't know about other places, but in Africa, we mostly grow timid young people. The young do not have a voice. You speak and you are branded as disrespectful. I think that the world today is not for timid people. And yet we keep raising timid young people for a world that requires brave and courageous people. People who can stand up to the occasion and demand what is rightly theirs. And I think that the faith-based groups, particularly the Catholic Church, considers the home as a domestic church. And so that is where the formation begins. And so as parents, I want to plead with all of us to ensure that we give our young people that room to express themselves and to go all out to be what they want to be. That is not to mean that you should allow your child to be irresponsible. not allowing the child to be irresponsible does not mean that you gag the child from speaking up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're coming towards an end, but I'd like all the panelists today to... Sorry? Yeah, Pratibha, I'm coming there. So I'd like all panelists to be able to give a final comment. So Pratibha, if you can come up here and sit together with us, I will send the mic around for whatever you like to say. Yes, you can ask. You have, wow, we have 2 questions. Wonderful. You have your own mics, actually.
Okay. So, basically, I want to just add with that youth person. Basically, I am coming from a community or country where basically I saw that due to the climate problem, particularly the increasing of salinity, warming, everyday people are actually facing new challenges. Even our girls are not taking the pills to avoid the uses of water. In Bangladesh, my country is Bangladesh, so in southern part, people are actually asking for pure water, but it's not there. Water level is decreasing every day. In various chor area, I mean the river basin area, people are actually losing their land, losing their assets, and youths are getting unemployed every day because due to the change in our nature, every day new things are happening with them. Even when we are talking about to stand, but also it is important to be united. Because we are doing many things. Even if we can observe the COP and various events, we can see the very good practices are going on. But still we are not united. We need to transfer technology. We need to focus on knowledge sharing as the good practices, as like doing Brahma Kumaris are doing here. Youth need to engage there very actively. We need to understand we have a responsibility, not it is the government job. It's our Mother Earth. It's our planet, like our mother.
Yeah. Thank you. We will do our best to unite.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine Kipsang. I come from Kenya. I'm really excited about the presentation by, what is this, Honest? Yes, and I also liked the fact that he gave good statistics about the the numbers we have in the youth we have in the world. And I know one thing about youth. They are full of energy, ideas, and they can start a movement that no one can stop. Because today's youth are borderless. They are borderless youth because of the social media and the way they are versatile in the manner they use the technology. So I would like to give you 2 ideas. One, you can be an influencer and a role model. And I remember there was a case in Nigeria where there was a movement about, I think it was either Twitter accounts which had been closed or something like that, and the youth they rose against the government, the governors, the leaders of the day, and they were able to influence. So I would say that this 1.2 billion, if Honest, for example, you start this movement, a tree a day, I'm telling you the youth will plant these trees. You are saying that they are not there. Even if somebody will say plant grass, plant cover crops, if you start a movement on social media, on Twitter, for even like a week, you stop for lack of better word, the useless forwards people keep on sending. But this time round, you say we are planting grass, we are planting trees, or every birthday we are going to give that friend the number of trees their years they have lived in. So in that case, you find that the youth will be more energized, and they will not look at the negative, maybe livelihood they have had in their childhood or how they were brought up by their parents, but they will be looking at how they will be able to protect their environment and the next youth around them. Then the other issue is, I would even give a suggestion that even here in the room, we can do what we call adopt a youth. You know the way you say adopt a tree, adopt a light, why can't we adopt a youth? So that we can be able to be a mentor, because as much as we speak about the programs and the government come or people from different institutions come here, and then they go back and they go to their offices, like he has said, and they don't implement it, then they will not be able to have meaningful implementation. Like it is in this COP that I came to learn that there are organizations that are ready to give free trees. When I go back to Kenya, I will want to invite you to my village and see what I'll do with the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow, you have good advice there, Ernest. All of us have good advice. Adopt the youth. I like that. So maybe, Dr. Tangen, you can sit here, and I'll pass the mic around for a final comment. And it's maximum 1 minute, and I'll go the same way as we did before.
Okay, thank you. So many things have been said. I would like to build on this experiment of meditation. I just would like to offer you 3 sentences that you can take with you and everyday experiment and experience. And you can change it every day. So the first sentence, in silence, you create the thought, I am peace, and experience it. I experience peace. I send peace out to the world, to Mother Nature, and to all living beings. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Well, talking to the youth, I think one of the most difficult part of being a youth today is the complete lack of role models. I think Africa lost its role models with the dying off of the people like the Mandelas, with the dying off of people like the Desmond Tutu, even political leaders like the Sankaras. So what we are left with now are just some people that comes into politics for business. And now we have a complete range of pastors, prophets. They are not role models. And so it has driven all, even adults are even more confused now than the youth themselves. I think the youth are even those who are ruling us now. Yeah, so for me as a conclusion, I would just say we need more of such. Unfortunately, we need to push to create a room for us to engage in such discussions, because that is what the world needs. Because people are looking for solutions. In fact, we are just headless chickens, as they usually say, going around. We hang on everything, politicians, pastors, and things like that. But I think nature, we just need to go back to nature. We need to go back to our roots, And when you look at the current political and socio-economic dispensation in the world today, we are just coming out of COVID, with the climate change, and with now the crazy war going on in Ukraine and Russia. It is so frustrating. But I think if we go back to nature and we can learn how to meditate, to concentrate, to build our internal resilience, I think it can really help the human being. And that is what we really need today. And that's what we need to teach our children. Thank you.
I think I'll just add on to what the previous speakers have said, and And I think all of us need to realize how powerful we are. I think we underestimate that. And by going back to our inner nature, so we are talking about coming back to to have natural living, but natural living starts with the self. So I need to like come back to that powerful being that I am and experience that as much as I can. And everything else will not be as scary as it seems to be. Thank you.
I have just three points. The first one is to call our attention to the fact that I think Africa is in a very special position, so to speak, because we have two resources that many other continents don't have. We have the landmass, and we have a youthful population. So that's the first point. The second point is that one of the mantras I kept listening to or hearing to when I started doing or getting involved in youth work was stop agonizing and start organizing. It was the refrain that was said to us as young people many times that, you know, you come here and you complain about this, that, or the other. What you need to do is to start organizing. And we are organizing. We are seriously organizing. But I can point you to many youth organizations on the continent which are facing difficult times. They are organized after being told to stop agonizing. But what happens next when they organize? That's the question. And as Elvis said, it's a question of recognizing that as well, youth are not like one homogeneous group, you know. So we talk about youth as if they should have, you know, specific qualities that do not necessarily mirror what's happening in the rest of society. So if there's no role models, expect that also the generation that's coming up will exactly mirror what's going on with the older generation. Thankfully, there's also the few role models that we have are able to inspire those young people who are able to organize, like Ernest here and others. So support those who have stopped agonizing and have started organizing. Thank you.
I heard one poet saying, the trees don't eat their own fruit, and the rivers don't drink their own water. And so we need to become very unconditional, like nature. And my brother just mentioned that we need to unite. The consciousness which we talked about in meditation is I am a being, irrespective where I come from. That consciousness doesn't have Hindu, Muslim, Christian, young, old, rich, Africa. It doesn't have any consciousness. So if I start working on my consciousness and then be unconditional and not expecting from others, but create in my inner self, then I can definitely achieve what I need to achieve. Thank you.
Oh, no. So one of the challenges of being a photographer is that you hardly get pictures of yourself. I think that what I need to say has already been enumerated by speakers before me. And Alan mentioned that young people have stopped agonizing and are organizing. I think that there was a suggestion also for my sister that said that I should come out to become, so start a movement. That's what you mentioned, yes. I belong to, aside belonging to SAINESA, I belong to a group known as the Ignition Youth Network, and it has care for the environment as one of its core pillars. Also belong to Peace Jam Ghana, which is the Ghana chapter of an international organization for young people, and he also has caring for the environment as one of its pillars. And so young people are involved. We are planting the trees. We are taking care of the environment. We are going out and sweeping. But young people cannot do all that alone. I have an issue with religious people. I think that we should stop being religious and start being spiritual people. Because we call ourselves religious. In Ghana, for example, we have majority of the population are Christians. And yet you go out and you see rubbish everywhere. People are cutting trees illegally. People are mining illegally. Who are these people? These are Christians. Is that what a Christian is supposed to do? A Christian is supposed to care for the environment. And if you care for the environment, you certainly will not engage in illegal mining. You won't throw rubbish anywhere. And when you are asked, you would further ask whether the place is the person's bedroom. They tell you that it's not your bedroom, so it's okay to throw rubbish anywhere because it's not your bedroom, and yet this person is a Christian. So I don't think that the issue has to do with young people. It's about all of us. But young people have a key role to play. And sometimes the challenge is that when we alert the elderly that what you're doing is not right, we are branded as disrespectful people. And I think that is where the problem all starts.
Thank you so much. That was the final comment I think we've been wanting to hear. Okay, I see the gentleman here wanting to ask a question. I think we have a few more minutes, right?
Ok, merci madame. Moi, je suis M. Sidi Barré de la délégation camerounaise. Ce que nous constatons, le mode de gouvernance qui se veut de plus en plus unique, qu'est la démocratie, et pour beaucoup de choses, du mépris et de la négligence de l'environnement. Parce que chaque modèle social, chaque modèle social a ses valeurs. Si je prends le cas du Cameroun actuellement, avec l'avènement de la démocratie, la chose publique devient sabotée par n'importe qui. Je prends l'exemple des aires protégées, les parcs nationaux. Avant, ce n'était pas le cas. Mais maintenant, les autorités traditionnelles, les autorités administratives, qui sont en charge de préserver ces ressources, n'ont pas facilement la tâche, parce que les populations vont aller s'installer, exploiter de façon très désordonnée ces aires protégées au mépris de la réglementation même de ces aires protégées. Mais parce que c'est ça le problème fondamental, l'unique façon de voir comment le monde doit être gouverné. Actuellement, c'est la démocratie. Et la démocratie suppose que chacun a un pan de liberté qui lui permet de faire n'importe quoi. Et les gens, souvent, pour préserver leur électorat, refusent de faire de la répression. Au Cameroun, là où les aires protégées sont encore mieux préservées, c'est là où le pouvoir traditionnel est très fort. Je parle, Dr Elvis sait ça très bien, dans le Maori, où le pouvoir traditionnel est très fort. Vous ne pouvez pas faire du n'importe quoi avec les choses de l'État et puis avec les choses publiques. Le parc national de la Benue demeure l'un des parcs qui est encore mieux préservé au Cameroun à cause de ce pouvoir traditionnel fort. Mais maintenant, c'est le modèle de gouvernance mondiale unique, c'est la démocratie. Les gens se trouvent donc devant une certaine liberté qui est en réalité du libertinage. C'est ça la triste réalité. Je vous remercie.
Yes, so this is he's Mr. Sid Barry from Cameroon, and he's talking about the challenges of governance as a problem now in the world. With the advent of democracy, using the example from Cameroon, democracy and liberty has led to complete anarchy and a loss of control of the community and the society. And the politicians that were supposed to the custodians of authority are no longer there because they won vote. And so everything now is being destroyed. And the only, like talking about forests and nature reserve in Cameroon, the only places that those things are still standing are those areas with traditional rules, where the traditional rules are strong and where the spiritual affinity to the forest are strong. So one of the biggest problems is that of governance. The advent of democracy has been catastrophic in terms of governance and in terms of control of the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I will share a network with you, which is called Spirit of Humanity Forum, where they talk about the heart of governance. So I'll get your email afterwards. So, thank you very much for this fantastic session. And a big applause to all of us and to the panelists.